Hiya Hugh, well done yesterday, hope you found it helpful. Just going to run through a couple of things that we obviously discussed in the session. First of all, we'll start with a 3-wood on the left hand side here. As you can remember from the lesson, what we saw in terms of your setup was a little bit kind of disconnect from sort of the top and the bottom half. Now, the feet were aiming a long way off to the left, your shoulders were also aiming a long way off to the right, and the club kind of aimed somewhere in the middle, but tendency was a bit off to the left there. So to hit the golf ball straight required all those sort of three lines to kind of come back together at impact. From a consistency standpoint, that was going to be very, very, very difficult. And the fact you use this club very, very infrequently, you weren't really too sure sort of the timing of this when you're trying to hit it. So for me, if we can just try and clean things up with your setup, just get your toe line a little bit more kind of towards target. Your left foot's back there a smidgen, but certainly your shoulders are certainly a lot more square to target there. This was kind of where you were aiming at the golf ball, just towards the end of the driving range there with that, I think it was that green building in the distance there we can see. So once things were tidied up there wasn't really much in terms of the swing to think about. Just by getting in a better setup, you were able to rotate on the way back nicely, get the club sort of to the top of your backswing, and then from there, because your lower half now was squarer, not so closed, you're able to rotate your lower half out of the way. Your top half now being square means your club is going to come down from a better direction. Your shoulder direction, as we say, where the shoulders are pointing, that will kind of dictate your path. So now they're square to target, they're not aiming way out to the right. You're able to swing that golf club down the target line nicely. And again, very, very nice 3-wood strut there. Ball sailing down the target line straight to where you want to go, to a very good balanced finish. So regards to 3-wood, nothing really swing-wise to worry about. Just focus mainly on that setup. And I would suggest do that with all the clubs in the bag, even down to sort of wedges, your 7-irons, your 8-9-irons, and those sort of things, that you were playing well in any case. But it's always ideal to have a same sort of similar setup from the bag, from driver down through to the shorter irons. You don't have sort of 3 or 4 different setups for all these different clubs, with regards obviously alignment. So get that better with a 3-wood, and that will certainly help that club. Now in terms of the bunker shots, there was a lot of good in terms of your setup. I like the fact you wiggled your feet in, had a nice wide stance, turned your right foot out a little bit, got your weight forward. The thing for me was, when you played this shot, very often you weren't really rotating your body through. You were trying so hard to get down into the sand because of the lack of success with these shots. I think you felt as though when you were clicking the ball, actually making contact with the ball, you weren't hitting enough sand. And what was actually happening was you were entering the sand way back here, exiting the sand somewhere around the second green arrow. So the club now was sort of bottoming out here and then coming up, hitting the golf ball on an increasing or an ascending blow. So the feeling now when you get to the top of your backswing, or your position where you swing back, from there now we just said, just to try and get your torso from pointing down to the golf ball here and rotate it towards target. There's going to be a nice good sort of twist and rotation with the torso. If we watch this movement here, now you can see your chest and arms sort of leading down to the golf club there. Really, really good sort of synchronized position. Club entering the sand that inch or two behind the golf ball, lovely. And you watch this continuation through at the target, playing a really, really nice shot. And very often what happens when people are sort of struggling with a certain type of shot, or not having success, they keep their head down, they try and do things to try and help the ball out the sand or help the ball up in the air, and the more you stay down, the more down here you would enter the sand. So by putting that stick there just inside your left foot, as we can see, what that encourages you to do now is to get that club to sort of swing and get your body rotating more to target, get a much better strike of the sand just for the ball. And then so your entrance point now would be inch or two behind the golf ball. Your exit now, if we zoom right the way in there, we can see where the entrance and exit was, somewhere between those two blue lines. So getting your body to rotate more is certainly going to help you change that low point of the swing, and rather than the low point being way behind the ball and therefore your club coming out of the sand and catching the golf ball, it's now going to be underneath the golf ball as that club goes down and sort of underneath the strike of the ball then coming out nice and floating upon the green. So use that body to rotate better. I think we could still look at getting the shoulders slightly more square, as we said. We don't want to be sort of turning the body too up there. And one final thing, that setup you did have, the ball did get a little bit too far forward. So added to the fact you were staying down, your entrance point was back here, too far behind where you wanted to be, and the ball was a little bit too far forward. Just added and increased the inconsistencies of the shot there, because you were entering the sand just a mile behind the golf ball, and well, there was no real chance at all of the ball coming out whatsoever there, Hugh. So bring that ball back a little bit, get that torso rotating better, and I'm pretty sure you'll find a bit more success now with their bunker shots going forward. And as we said, you only really play this shot probably 6, 7, 8 times a month. So if you can try and get in the bunker, just do a bit of practice there in between sort of rounds of golf. If you can hit 20 or 30 shots once or twice a week, you'll get a lot more success in the bunkers and hopefully learn to start to enjoy bunker shots rather than the fear that you had, as you said before. So hope that all makes sense. Any questions, obviously, regards by the 3-wood or the bunker shots, feel free to give me a shout. And then maybe next session, as we said, we'll get on the golf course, sort of make up an extra half an hour to make an hour session again, and then look at some of those shots over bunkers, I think the 16th of the button, and other shots you said where you're struggling to get a bit of height to stop that ball quickly on the green. So we'll take it easy. Any questions, like I say, give me a shout, and I will see you soon. Cheers, you.